Michelle. Your dog knows your home before you even open the door. It can tell the difference between a stranger's footsteps and yours. It's able to hear at a frequency range of 64 hertz to 44 kilohertz. Human hearing, by comparison, is limited to a range of only 31 hertz to 19 kilohertz. An eagle can spot its prey from up to 2 miles away. Some animals can even see wavelengths of light that are invisible to us, such as infrared and ultraviolet, whereas the human eye can only see less than 1% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Hearing, sight, taste, touch, and smell. The phenomenal world comes to us through the filters of our 5 senses, of the vast array of energy, vibration, and information that make up our existence. We humans can perceive only the merest fraction. Thus, our sensory experience is limited to just a very small part of a much larger reality. From within this infinitesimal window of perception, we lay the foundation of our core belief systems, upon which we build our cultural bias, which then defines the limits of our thinking and our beliefs. We, of course, have a natural tendency to gravitate towards other people whose beliefs and opinions are in agreement with our own. But consequently, we may also find ourselves in conflict with those who don't share our same worldview. These conflicts can emerge most noticeably in the realms of politics and religion, and most perilously when these two worlds come together. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, do not think for 1 minute that I fail to recognize the dangerous ground upon which I now stand. I am well aware. I stand before you precariously balanced upon a razor's edge, with politics on one side and religion on the other. And I must be careful not to lean too far in either direction, lest I fall into the kind of discussion which we all know very well is not appropriate for Toastmasters. I will therefore retreat to a more objective and hopefully humbler perspective. In order to look at this with any amount of objectivity, I want to approach this discussion from a metaphysical frame of reference. Now, I know there are those who consider anything metaphysical as being a bunch of new age, pseudo-spiritual woo-woo. But metaphysical simply means beyond the physical, which is actually very much in agreement with our modern science. But I am not speaking of the classic Newtonian physics, which only describes a narrow scope of what our 5 senses can comprehend. If we're ever going to be able to think beyond our stunted view of reality, we need to expand our view to encompass the mind-boggling domain of quantum physics, through which we now recognize such paradoxes as matter is energy, and energy is matter. Light is both a wave and a particle. We exist in both the relative and the absolute. And while we are in the world, we are surely not of it. Clearly, there is more to our existence than our limited materialistic perspective. As Shakespeare put it, there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy. If we dare to reach beyond the boundaries of our restrictive paradigms, we can widen and deepen our perspective to include and perceive the greater reality, which some call the unified field. Others refer to it as universal intelligence. I'm quite comfortable with the word God. I particularly like Joseph Campbell's definition of God as a metaphor for a mystery that absolutely transcends all categories of human thought. I rather like that definition because it's free of the kind of mindless dogma that's often clung to by a simplistic herd mentality, which I suppose would be fine if that were the sum total of who we are. But I believe we were much more. I believe we are first and foremost spiritual beings. And while we're certainly at our best, when our lives are aligned with our spirituality, we can also be at our absolute worst when our spirituality becomes warped by political ideology. Now, I don't claim to be any kind of theologian or a biblical scholar, but I've been around a bit, and I've been a seeker for much of my life. I can tell you of the various spiritual paths that I've explored. I've gleaned one central truth, one fundamental message that I believe encapsulates the true purpose of our existence, which can be summed up in 3 simple words. 3 words. Love each other. What greater purpose could we ever have? But the more I hear others proclaim that theirs is the only true faith, and that everyone else has it wrong, the more they seek to proselytize, evangelize, and convert others to their exclusive truths, the more I notice that essential message can sometimes get lost. We can instead become preoccupied with such inane questions as who is anointed and who is not, who is righteous and who is not, who is saved and who is not. These divisive arguments, however well meant, are actually a result of pride masquerading as spirituality. Pride being the greatest sin of all. And when I speak of sin, I'm referring to the original Greek word, hamartia, which literally means to miss the mark. But we don't just miss the mark, we also miss the point. Because the point isn't so much right versus wrong, as it is fear versus love. And unfortunately, the self-serving forces that are shaping our world today consistently choose the former rather than the latter. If humanity's ever going to find its true north, then our direction must ever be turned toward our acceptance of one another, our respect for one another, and yes, I will say it in public, our love for one another. If we can only for a moment question our hardwired opinions and look beyond our own myopic point of view, we might recognize that there's far more that connects us than what separates us. But I can't help but marvel at the certainty with which others proclaim and broadcast their beliefs. They are so certain that they are in possession of the definitive truth. And they are so certain that others who don't believe as they do are either misguided or deluded. It really begs the question that in the midst of so much certainty, what need would we ever have for faith? I can tell you that as the older I get, the less I actually know. And I'm forced to acknowledge that perhaps my greatest understanding is recognizing the limits of my own understanding. And maybe that is the beginning of wisdom. Maybe. I'd like to conclude with the words of the 13th century Sufi poet, Jalaluddin Muhammad Rumi. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Mr. Toastmaster.